What up? What up? Well, I was just watching a little of Donald Trump's speech today, which was fantastic. He was criticizing the host of the Democratic debate, and he's in this speech. I was just looking; it's like an hour and a half long, and I was trying to find it. I saw it earlier today on cable news, but he's talking about how the Democrats are like throwing softball questions, like real easy questions, to Hillary Clinton during their debate, and the Republicans were getting real bad questions, and he's like illustrating like them throwing softballs, and every time he's illustrating, he's going bing, bing, bing. I cannot get enough of this guy. He is a piece of work. But anyways, I'll go back to watching that video after this. Leadership in Congress. This will be a relatively short screencast, and um, hopefully it's valuable. Obviously, there are individuals in Congress who lead both the House and the Senate, and those individuals are determined by which party is in power. So, right now, as you know from the previous screencast, the Republicans control the Senate and the Republicans control the House. As I mentioned previously, the House of Representatives has very strict rules. For example, when you go up and discuss in the chamber your feelings on a particular piece of legislation or a bill, you only have limited time to do it, 3 minutes per se. And once those 3 minutes are done, you have to stop talking. Whereas in the Senate, you can talk as long as you want. So the rules in the House lead to the leader of the House having a tremendous amount of power in regards to what occurs when considering bills, when considering what bills are going to be on the agenda in the House of Representatives. Today was a particularly sad day for me. Um, it was tough. Today, the House chose a new leader. And that means we're going to have a very monumental occasion. We're going to take away John Boehner, and that is pronounced Boehner. Boehner. I don't know why the red line's under there. John Boehner stepped down today as the Speaker of the House of Representatives, which was somewhat of a surprise this fall. And he is going to be replaced by an individual named Paul Ryan, who is a Republican member of the House from Wisconsin. Paul Ryan, incidentally, was the running mate, the vice presidential running mate with baseball Mitt Romney in 2012, and of course lost. Paul Ryan is very conservative from a fiscal or economic standpoint. He's conservative, he's a Republican, but he doesn't always focus or doesn't necessarily focus on social issues. His big issue is fiscal issues, lower taxes, less government spending, etc. And the Republicans have had a real difficulty since John Boehner stepped down or announced he was going to step down about a month ago. So let's watch a quick video why, and this kind of illustrates what I've said for the whole semester in regards to the Republican Party and how they have fragments or factions of the party that have very, very different views. So let's watch this video. Hopefully, this is my first time playing a video with this new screencast. Hopefully, it isn't crazy with the audio. Let me comment right here. The Freedom Caucus are the Tea Party, the super, super conservative members of the Republican Party. Ted Cruz, who's running for president, would fall under that caucus. If he was in the House, he is a senator. So individuals in this caucus wanted a super conservative Speaker of the House, and there was some speculation that Ryan would not be able to get their support. So, as I just mentioned, you have to get 88%. That's a huge percentage. And you know that none of these Democrats over here are going to be voting for a Republican as the Speaker of the House. Oh, Bernie Sanders is on TV. I'm watching MSNBC in the background. On a side note, I saw in the Chicago Tribune today, they had pumpkins who were dressed as Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and Bernie Sanders. They were phenomenal. I can't believe I didn't tell you guys to make jack-o'-lanterns based on political candidates. I'm very disappointed in myself. Maybe we could do it after Halloween. I mean, I guess we don't have to do it before. But again, the Republicans are essentially picking their leader of the House, and the Speaker has a tremendous amount of power. Some of these things we're not going to go over right now. We'll go over later in this particular unit. But you see there's some bold stuff here. And the Speaker, again, has tremendous amount of influence and clout in the House of Representatives. We'll get into these committees later. We've already talked about Select Committee, and that certainly is really important as we talked about the Select Committee on the issue in Benghazi and Hillary Clinton appearing in front of it last week. So we talked about that in great detail, but Conference Committee we'll get into later, so don't feel like you need to know that right now. But they also appoint the Rules Committee. And again, as I said, the House of Representatives has very strict rules. Rules that determine when a bill can be debated on the floor. So you're basically determining which bills get to be discussed and considered for passing, and what type of debate can be discussed. And again, we'll get into greater detail and delve deeper into that later in the unit. The Speaker of the House also assigns bills to committee. Bills on a particular issue, let's say it's a farm bill, would go to the Committee on Agriculture. Kind of a side note, or something that doesn't occur very often in the history of the United States, they are second in line to the President of the United States after the Vice President. So when you had Gerald Ford take over the presidency after Nixon resigned, and I believe the Vice President, there was no one in that position. Gerald Ford, as Speaker of the House, took over the presidency. So it's not that it can't occur, it's just extremely rare. The majority leader and minority leader of the House of Representatives are again selected by each party. The majority leader right now, Kevin McCarthy, isn't going to be seen in the news as much as the Speaker of the House. Because he is of the majority party, the highest ranking majority party member in the House is the Speaker. Well, the highest ranking member in the Democratic Party, who is a minority party, is Nancy Pelosi. There's no one higher than her in the hierarchy of the leadership of the House of Representatives. Nancy Pelosi, when the Democrats controlled Congress, was the Speaker of the House. When the Republicans took over, obviously they didn't select her to remain in that position. So she was elected as the minority leader of the Democrats by that party. So she plays a greater role. So when the news media is going to get, the stance or opinion on a piece of legislation, they're going to go to, for the Republican Party, the Speaker; for the Democratic Party, who is in the minority leader. The whips, the two whip positions, basically serve a role of going out and trying to literally whip up support for a bill. So, for example, if Paul Ryan says, you know what, we need our members of Congress to support a bill on, hypothetically saying, funding for the military, he is going to send Steve Scalise, I think it's Scalise, out to go around the members of Congress of their party to see if the support is there. So it's kind of those individuals are going out and say, hey, the speaker wants this piece of legislation to be supported. Will you? And you better support this piece of legislation. So they go out and kind of get a feel for whether or not they have enough support to get a majority in the House and get the bill passed. Steny Hoyer is a minority whip for the Democrats, and he will do the same thing. Go out and get kind of a barometer of whether or not the support is there for a piece of legislation. Now, when we go to the Senate, again, it's a far less formal institution, meaning they don't have a lot of strict rules. It's very, very formal. So think about it like this. If we had 435 members of a classroom, we'd have to have some pretty strict rules, especially when we had class discussions. With that many people in a classroom, we'd have to have rules. Otherwise, it would be out of control. With the Senate, with only 100, you could be a little more flexible in regards to your rules in a classroom, in this case, in a Senate or a chamber of the legislative branch. The vice president serves as a tie-breaking vote in the Senate, so if for some reason there was a 50-50 tie, which is very unlikely, being that right now politics at our national level is so partisan, meaning the 54 Republicans, there isn't one of those Republicans, generally speaking, that is going to go and flip and support anything the Democrats are pushing in the Senate. Furthermore, you're going to see the opposite with the Democrats. They're going to get very little individuals from the Republican Party to support a piece of legislation. Therefore, the likelihood of a 50-50 tie is pretty slim. So Joe Biden spends virtually zero time in the Senate. If for some reason there was going to be a close vote, then maybe he would be there. But typically speaking, vice presidents do not spend any time in the Senate. And generally speaking, it is a very ceremonial job. The president pro tempore of the Senate is also a somewhat ceremonial job. Orrin Hatch, who is a very veteran member of the Senate, a Republican from Utah, serves in this position. Again, very ceremonial, doesn't really have much power. The only significance, I suppose, of the position is they are third in line to the presidency after the vice president and the Speaker of the House. By far the most known or the most seen member of the Senate, I think I just said House. Most seen member of the Senate is a majority leader, and that is currently Mitch McConnell. As you know, we have looked at Mitch McConnell in a 2.5-minute video of him just walking around, sitting at a desk with no audio. You remember him. Kind of resembles a turtle. Mitch McConnell is the leader of the Senate for the majority party, and therefore will get a lot of attention when the media is going to see how the Senate is going to vote on a particular piece of legislation. They're probably going to talk to him first. Is there a minority leader as well? Yes. But certainly in the Senate, the majority leader gets much of the attention. And when we talk about significant leaders in our government overall, clearly the president is probably the most significant. The Speaker of the House is probably second most significant leader because of the tremendous amount of influence and power they have over the agenda in the House of Representatives. And then third in line would probably be the majority leader of the Senate. So if you're trying to see if a piece of legislation is going to legitimately get to the president, you're going to kind of get a feel for, in this case, how Representative Ryan thinks the House will go. And then you're going to go with the majority leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, and get a feel for him. There's going to be a lot of interactions between Paul Ryan now and Mitch McConnell when they try to pass a bill together that they want to get to the president. And it could be for a variety of things. It could be on Social Security, et cetera. And they're going to try to make that bill a bill that is likely going to be passed. So there is cooperation with the executive branch, because you're not going to spend a lot of time trying to pass a bill between the House and Senate if there's no chance that the president is going to sign that bill. Later on, we'll learn that a override of a veto is extremely rare, and we'll go into the reasons for that at that time. So again, Speaker of the House, in my mind, the second most powerful politician, elected official in the United States. And then you could probably say right after that is the majority leader of the Senate. So that's the leadership of those two branches of the, bodies of the legislative branch. And again, both selected by the majority party. And in this case, in both branches or both chambers of Congress, it is the Republicans. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.